The robots are rising. So, will they change our lives unrecognizably? Behind the scenes, robots are everywhere, from caring for elderly to sewing a pair of jeans that you might be wearing right now. But the future is much more robotic than you might think. So, oh, very nice. Will this future bring us optimism or challenges and anxieties about the future of humanity? And it's my pleasure to invite here on stage Dmitry Grishin, a founder of Grishin Robotics, a $100 million fund that focuses solely on smart hardware, IoT, and robotics. Dmitry was named by MIT Technology Review as Innovator Under 35. And our moderator, Bill Reichert, who has more than 30 years of experience as an entrepreneur and investor. Bill was the founding partner of Garage Technology Partners, and he focuses on early-stage information technology and material science companies. So, welcome.
Thank you. Watch yourself. Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Anna. And I like to think of this more as an opportunity to be enlightened rather than just a diversion until they finish the scoring.
Okay,
so,
okay.
But I'm delighted.
Come on, Bill.
Yes.
You didn't have to say that.
I'm sorry. All right. So obviously, had we had robots developed well enough by now, we wouldn't have had to have those human beings come out here and drop the panel and move the. We could have had robots done it, and they wouldn't have hit anything, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So okay. So we're going to talk about robots and AI for a few minutes here. But before we start, Dmitry, could you give us a little bit of the journey to here in terms of, mail.ru, and then you started, Grishin Robotics. Give us a little bit of your background and why you decided to start Grishin Robotics.
Yeah, so first of all, I studied robotics in university. So
Okay.
I was passionate for a very long time. And if you remember year 2000 when the internet bubble.
I remember it well.
Of course, at that time, it was absolutely obvious that robots is too early and internet is much better business. So we started to do internet. But I always have passion about robotics and about technology, which combine things together. Mm-hmm. And I think there's few things which happened, I think, around 5 years ago, which combine, create pretty much new big opportunity. So let me mention them. Number one is price of hardware going down. Mm-hmm. So now, like a lot of sensors in smartphones, battery, processors, cameras, they're all very cheap. Mm-hmm. So now, like you have, I don't know, like this camera, it's now cost like $10, right? This very small camera, which could look very good quality. But before it cost $10,000. So it was very, very huge drop in the pricing. Mm-hmm. Second thing is that you have connectivity everywhere. So it's much easier to connect devices. Mm-hmm. And of course, you have a lot of other technology like crowdfunding, 3D printers, and many, many other things. All together, they create very simple opportunity. Right now, you can start a robotics company having 3-5 engineers. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely not possible 20 years ago. If you want to build robots 20 years ago, you need funding at least, I don't know, $100 million, which was only acceptable by big corporations, governments, and so on. So I think huge drop in the price create huge, big opportunity.
Well, to push back slightly, not exactly, because about 20 years ago, we actually invested in a robotics company, and we got that pitch. 20 years ago, we got the pitch. The price of hardware has come down dramatically. The price of software. They did okay. A company called Innovative Robotics was doing a very specialty, semiconductor robot, but special purpose.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think exactly what's happening is that Silicon Valley was a lot about hardware. Mm-hmm. Then, for many reasons, people start to be not very passionate about hardware.
Yeah.
And we have huge software age. And I think this is one of the reasons why Grishin Robotics exists, because almost no VC initially start to give money to robotics. And like, I take a lot of entrepreneurs who start to build hardware, and all of them say huge problem is to fundraise for robotics. And exactly the reason you mentioned. It's just, you have perception that hardware is hard, which is this, and it's very, very difficult to raise money.
Yeah. So you decided to take advantage of that opportunity and start Grishin Robotics.
Absolutely.
And so where are you investing now, both in terms of types of robotics and geography of companies?
So most of my investments here in California.
Okay.
I have I think 2 in New York, but mostly in California, and usually it's Series A, Series B stage.
Oh, really? Not early, not seed?
No.
Okay.
But I think like I maybe have like 2 investments for seed, but usually it's Series A.
But those poor entrepreneurs who say it's so hard to raise money for hardware, you're not helping them because...
No, I'm helping. I think no. The reason is that if you can look on market, and especially with platforms like Kickstarter, you right now can raise your first initial bench, right?
Okay. So
the problem is when you want to scale the hardware business, this is where things became really tough.
Okay, that's where you jump in. Okay, so give us a little landscape here in terms of what are the key trends you see in robotics and the related industries and technologies?
I think there's few things. First, I think the biggest trend which happening last 3-4 years that big internet companies start to spend more time with hardware. I think this is like huge shift. If you can see what's going with Facebook and now hardware team, you have Google who now like hire a lot of hardware people, especially in Nest Group, but they also now like have big hardware
autonomous vehicle, right?
Autonomous vehicles. Amazon start to do a lot of hardware things. So I think what's happening that, and it was my vision, that you start to apply a lot of internet technologies, combine it with hardware, and then create new opportunities. So I think biggest trend, right now it's not only startup, but big companies start to focusing a lot on this market, like Google Alexa, Alexa, Google, many other things. So it's trend number 1.
Okay.
Trend number 2 is that I think that we have initial big excitement about robotics and about hardware, and now people start to more and more understand what exactly works and what is not working.
So
we have few successes like Nest, Oculus, Ring. They're our portfolio company which was sold to Amazon. So there is some pattern recognitions which you look and say, okay, this works and this not works.
Okay, so what are the? So I want to jump on that because Nest and Oculus are not yet. I mean, obviously the entrepreneurs did brilliantly, right? But it's not obvious that they're changing the world. The technology is changing the world. So what's in terms of, what works and what doesn't work? What have been the surprises in both directions? What has been your biggest surprise in terms of what has worked? What has let you down?
Again, you're right. It's how you define what is work, what does not work. Because there is sometimes something which people have huge expectation. And expectation was less than people expecting, right? But still success. So let me mention things which not works very well. I think one of the examples is Fitbit. It's very big success. But I think people thinking that Fitbit will activate a lot of software features and will build a lot of subscription business or something which generate not only hardware sales. They still try to do it, but they not figure out yet. GoPro is the same pattern. It's, I think, two similar companies, and this is why market only pay one revenue for valuation. So it's market punishes both these companies because they create huge brand, huge distribution, but they not convert this hardware sales to really service model. This is important, and I think these 2 companies will be studied as one of the biggest success on early stage, but they can convert it to more systematic models.
Sustainable.
Yes. I think Nest, on the other side, I not talk about valuation. I think it's success because they sell, I don't remember the number, but I think last year maybe 600 million revenue. So it's still the way how efficiently they do, but there is market there. It's definitely market there. They found the market, and it's good. I can give you other example company which I'm really excited. I'm not investor in this, but I'm really excited. Company called Peloton. I don't know.
Peloton.
Peloton.
Okay.
So
talk a little bit about why you think they're a big idea.
Because my vision is that you really can create huge success if you use hardware as distribution, but then you build systematic service behind it.
Okay, right.
And Peloton is a really great example, $39 subscription. I think one of the best example of subscription service ever was created in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Very small churn,
Yeah.
huge growth. I like the company a lot.
Interesting. Okay.
Other example, of course, is Ring. They was perfect in terms of
Yeah.
creating subscriptions.
Yeah.
So it's doorbell, you can press the button and activate call. But they built huge successful hardware business, software business, and what's more important is they create pretty unique thing, which I think still most of the people don't understand about Ring and Amazon acquisition of Ring. They create huge network effect, which is very rare in hardware businesses.
Yeah.
And network effect create very interesting solutions. So the more people in neighborhood have doorbells,
Yeah.
the more you see how people moving inside of neighborhood. And if something go wrong, I don't know, if somebody steal your package, Ring can track how this is going on, right? So it's pretty
Okay.
interesting.
So that's the intelligence side of the hardware.
Yes, yes.
So a lot of these things, well, so it's interesting. So this is a debate I have with my partners, which is if you think about all of the technology trends over the last 20 or 30 years, and you look at it carefully, you realize actually it's the hardware guys who have really made Silicon Valley and the world what it is. The software guys have just been along for the ride. Is that,
No,
am I
no,
wrong?
no. I don't agree with you. And again,
It's really all about hardware, right?
No. You know, it depends. It depends.
Yeah.
Like if you can look what's going on right now,
Yeah.
definitely you can really build huge business.
Yeah.
If you combine both.
Yeah.
My belief is that
No, I think the money goes to the software guys. It seems up until recently, right?
But my point is that we have some period of time when you have create pure software business, which can generate huge profit, grow a lot. But next wave of evolution will be combining software and hardware together. And I think where new market, huge size, like $3 trillion market size coming. And I think let's look Apple as example, but try to apply the same model to many different markets.
So help us. What is the next big thing? Is it? Have we seen it yet, or is it about to appear? Is it Alexa and that aspect? Is that the next big thing, and it's just starting, or is there something waiting in the wings?
I can say that if you, as an investor, you need to build a lot of partner recognitions, and I can say at least several things which is already clear. First, it should be combining software and hardware.
Right.
And you should not build business on selling hardware only.
Fair.
It's otherwise you will going down to the
it becomes a commodity.
Fitbit, Xiaomi create a pretty cheap device which start to go product. So you should think about, I think, pretty unique, interesting stuff. If you can look on mathematics, in some markets, it's cheaper to build hardware than to buy online advertising.
Yeah.
So hardware became new way of distribution to reach consumers. So this is number one. Number two, you should focusing on services which you have high frequency. Because high frequency is equal to money.
Engagement and subscription.
Yes.
Right.
This is where you create really a lot of engagement and a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's critical and very important. Third thing, you should understand that right now there is two types of entrepreneurs who try to launch robotics companies. Like let's call old guard hardware people.
Right.
Who sometimes not figure out how to deal with software. And there is internet entrepreneurs who don't know how to deal with hardware. Especially this surprise that in software world, you deploy the product. If something go wrong, you fix it tomorrow. Right? In hardware world, people say, okay, we don't like your device, we send it back.
Right.
And you get thousands of devices coming back. So I think that combining these two things together, it's where magic happens, and you should understand that robotics company is not about hardware and software. It's also about logistic, distribution, and capital management, because you have inventory which you need to manage. It's many skills together. So I think that robotics entrepreneurs should be the smart of both worlds.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. So here we are. it happens to be, it's about 100 years since the word robot was coined.
Okay.
Right? So, and you know the story, Rossum, and it's actually from Slavic, from Russian, right?
Okay.
So okay. Is that unfair? Did I misspeak?
No, you can say that.
That's okay? Okay.
I'm okay. Yeah.
So it's been 100 years since, we've been talking about robots. And, Anna introduced this section as, the rise of the robots, Terminator X. And for every cycle, we've sort of imagined that the robot that we've envisioned as this sort of android autonomous kind of machine. Humanoid. It's almost irrelevant, right? It's almost irrelevant. It's never become relevant. When you talk about robots, you're talking about hardware broadly defined, right? And so a Nest is a form of robot in your language.
Yeah,
is that fair?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, which is not the way most people, I think, use the word robot.
I think you raise a nice point, and I think I have pretty interesting view that once device or service start to do something useful, people stop to call it robots. So it's really, let's go to the history. Let's go back.
Yeah. When would you?
Let's assume that you fly back to the future, to the past.
Yeah.
30 years.
Okay.
Somebody told you there is device which you come, press the button, and it gives you the cash. So wow, this magic.
Well, that's about 60 years, right?
Yeah. Okay. We call it cash machine.
Right.
Let's say. Okay. You will.
Nobody called that a robot. I mean, but okay.
No,
okay.
my point is. But my point is that many years ago, people say it's a very magical device.
Yeah.
The same thing is. Think about person like people go like in the past, right? Somebody in 1950 will tell you. You will come to the car, sit in the car, and car will tell you where to go. Turn left, turn right. Say, wow, this is magic robot. We not call it robot. We call it navigation system, right? There is Roomba.
Right. Yeah, that's
and people
true. We did call that a robot.
Yeah, people. But my daughter called vacuum cleaner, right? Because she never see any other vacuum cleaners. So.
Well, but I think it says iRobot on the.
Yes, but still, my point is, once you have device, you start to do something useful.
Okay.
You stop to call it robots.
Okay.
You start called vacuum robots. You can call it cash machine. Navigation system, helicopter, whatever you call it.
Right, but nevertheless, there are companies out there that are building these things that look like what we think of as robots, right?
Especially in Japan.
So we have the personalized robots in Japan and China, right? And the social robots, and there's that thing, that category. And then, of course, there are all the manufacturing robots, which we call robots still, even though they do something useful, right?
Okay.
And so are you avoiding those sectors? Are those?
No.
Okay.
I think if you can look, again, very difficult to predict the future, but I agree that in somewhere in the future, we'll have universal humanoid robots who do something. But before, like, if you can look again on history,
right?
Look on smartphone. Smartphone is a nice universal device. But before smartphone, we have maybe 30 years of calculators, 30 years of MP3 players, 30 years of photo cameras, 30 years of just phones. So it was very vertical markets. Each of them found their consumers, found their product, tuned it, do many iterations. And then only after they was defined, they slowly start to be combined in one universal solution. I believe the same will happen with robotics. You will have a lot of verticals where you have a lot of iterations, many iterations. We will establish the market, and then one day, when technology will be ready, we start to merge this technology together.
But almost certainly the sort of service butler robot that people imagine will not come as a humanoid. It can. It could, but it probably won't unless people want it for some other reason.
There is some studies that if people see big humanoid robots, they become scared. So I'm not sure people will buy it easily. This is why the reason why almost all humanoid robots who people try to sell, they usually build smaller, like size of 6
So they're cute. So they're cute, right?
They're cute and they can do something wrong.
So I was involved with an investment in a company called Nightscope. Nightscope is a big security robot, but they decided to make it white to make it less intimidating or scary in a bad sense. So let's talk about for the entrepreneurs in the audience who want to get into this space. What are your recommendations to entrepreneurs in terms of what are the, for example, what are the typical mistakes that you see as entrepreneurs are pitching you, right? So you're soliciting anybody who's got a hardware, software integration, come to Dmitry, right? Assuming you're ready for Series A for the most part. So what do most entrepreneurs do wrong or misunderstand about your perspective on investing in robotics?
I think, especially the last few years, I see very interesting pattern. People start up, create very interesting solution, robot. Then big company like Walmart or FedEx start to buy this robot. They say, wow,
that's a good thing.
This is success. They put it in the pitch deck and say, okay, guys, we have everything. We have a future, give us the money. But what's happening in reality, if you can look on all big corporations, they have very big shift happening in these corporations. They start to hire a special person called Chief Innovation Officer. So each of these big corporations hires this person and gives them budget. And say, guys, we need to know anything interesting happening in the market, especially in robotics. Because if something going, we should be knowing. So these guys come and start to buy a lot of products from startups, but they buy only one or two.
Right.
And startups thinking that, okay, the future is here. But in reality, they sell one robot, but they stuck in terms of growing and scaling. We see this pattern recognition for many robotics companies you know very well right now in the market. They was all very good in piloting, but very bad in scaling. So be careful to talk to right people in the big corporations if you want to sell to big corporations. And be aware that if Chief Innovation Officer buy one device from you, it is not success yet.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. So any other tips for entrepreneurs on?
I have many. I think be careful with the money. I think I think it's general, but especially for hardware, you should be very careful because what we see, people spend so much money on developing the device. At the time when they need to scale and bring it to the market, they don't have money at all, right? And the investors still need to see at least early traction. And my recommendation is to be very careful with the money, especially until you not start to sell the device or start to sell product.
Yeah, I think our own experience.
A lot of problems with Kickstarter happen exactly like that.
Right. So they get a lot of excitement on Kickstarter, and then they think that extrapolates.
They spend all money developing the product. But the next day they need to ship or do something. They're out of cash. They sometimes even don't have money to buy an inventory to do distribution.
So a lot of this also relates to whether you're doing consumer. I mean, a lot of the examples we've been talking about have been consumer examples, right? Which is a whole other.
My previous example exactly opposite for B2B.
Okay.
So if you usually for B2B, your customers is big corporations.
Fair. Okay.
FedEx, Walmart. I know that Walmart right now have huge interest in robotics, especially they want to catch up with Amazon. They start to really systematically work with many robotics companies.
Okay. So when you said Walmart, you meant warehouse, not store. That's what you meant.
Yes,
in terms of,
there is some robots who do also in store. For example, they do inventory management.
Well, right. For operations, not for consumers. That's what you meant. So I know we're out of time. We can keep going. I'm happy to keep going. I'd like to keep going. The question is, do you want us to keep going, or do you want?
I do want you to keep going, but we ran out of time. So can we keep going off stage?
If you insist. Okay. Whatever Anna says. Well, Dmitry, thank you so much. This was very interesting, all too brief. Would love to continue the conversation, but let's give a big round of applause to Dmitry.
Thank you. Thank you, Dmitry. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.